Like every bright-eyed youngster, every pensioner had life all figured out. A strong career, a beautiful family, well-read children, a home to retire to in peace and relaxation. Until June 2004, every retired Nigerian's dream seemed to dissolve beneath a cloud of the word pension.
Look at them, those they carry from hospital to come here. They suffer too much.
Pension, as far as its Nigerian stage was concerned, had gotten a bad rap and had become synonymous with long queues, disappointment, broken promises, countless hours spent under the scorching sun only to be turned away. Before June 2004, many had come to look upon pension as a venture in futility.
When I took over the reins of government in 1999, there were a number of problems, and non-payment of pensions to those who have used their entire life to serve their country in one capacity or the other.
The political will of President Obasanjo, who clearly saw a problem, because we are not paying our pensioners. This was a problem.
The best thing that will happen to any human being is to be sure that at the end of his very active life, he has a guaranteed style of livelihood maintained, whatever standard he has set for himself.
In the past, prior to 2004, Nigerians' public sector had operated a defined benefit pension scheme, which was largely unfunded and non-contributory. Needless to say, the unfunded nature of this system led to an enormous buildup of pension debt. This government debt was estimated at more than 1 trillion naira. Retired public servants were left in a dismal emotional state of distrust. A natural response to a government they perceived had abandoned them to fate in old age.
There was bureaucracy, there was unfunding, because the British system set up a system that said, work for me and I'll pay you for the rest of your life. But they were trying to play God because they didn't put money aside to be doing the payment.
If we continued the system we had of assuming that the government would always have money to pay pensions, the defined benefit system, the country will be bankrupt one day.
One of the major aims is to see that pensioners get their pension as and when due. That's one of the essence of the Pension Reform Act. And then in addition, it is secondly a way of compulsory savings. People put aside things to be able to meet their old age. There's no other way to go. What the colonial powers left for us, pay as you go, couldn't be sustained.
After years of a failed system, it was clear that the system needed a complete overhaul. And in June 2004, a year into its second term, the government of President Olusegun Obasanjo took key measures aimed at reversal. What was needed was a system that was sustainable and had its own blueprint, the capacity to achieve the ultimate goal of providing a stable, predictable, and adequate source of retirement income for each participant. To accomplish this, the government would have to get rid of a scheme run on defined benefits and put the future into the hands of the individual. With this vision came the Pension Reform Act 2004, and with its new pension scheme built solely on defined contribution.
When we were working in the Bureau of Public Enterprises, and our mandate was to privatize the public institutions, I think that was not when the pension issue started, but I think that's when the solution came to a head.
We realized that there were a number of problems at the BPE with companies that were being privatized, and so I was invited to put together a committee in order to do pension reform.
The management that was set up to implement the provisions of the 2004 Act, we believe we have discharged our responsibilities to the best of our ability. We have put in place what is today called the contributory pension system.
We started with one company being privatized. Then we realized there was a problem covering all companies being privatized. Then we moved to all parastatals, including those not being privatized.
Even in the private sector, everybody was let loose to do whatever they were doing. So we came up with some few solutions. So we now said, let there be a contributory pension scheme.
The contributory and mandatory nature of the scheme stipulates that employers and workers in the public sector and private sector organizations with 5 or more employees contribute 7.5% of their salaries into a retirement savings account, RSA.
He therefore mooted the idea of contributory pension scheme, which to his own judgment, and he was proved right, is going to be more sustainable than the hitherto defined benefit pension scheme which we had.
The maintenance of a retirement savings account gives the workers direct access and responsibility over their retirement savings long before retirement. The Vitaline, with its natural potential for transparency and personal control, are the myriad of opportunities and benefits that were missing under the old scheme. In a bid to ensure that this is achieved within and alongside a strong regulatory environment, the 2004 administration set up the National Pension Commission, a commission built on the much-needed core principles of transparency, responsiveness, integrity, proactivity, and professionalism. Chinelo Anolu Amazu, Commission Secretary and Legal Advisor, was a member of the team, whose first mandate was to provide overall regulatory and oversight function on all issues concerning pension in Nigeria. A tall order, given the skepticism and financial atmosphere of the time.
So what we had from a lot of investors were, it's either you excise the pension liabilities from these companies, or we offered you basically peanuts for them because we would be saddled with these responsibilities when we take over the company.
And it was a very, very long process, but it had to be done that way because pensions are very, very important to people. And the people who were going to manage pensions, it was critical to ensure that they were people of integrity.
PENCOM's role, as we all know, is not to hold money. PENCOM has only one job: safety, to make sure that the system works and to act as the person that supervises and regulates the entirety of the industry. So PENCOM must continue in that role.
From July 2007, those who retired under the new scheme have started to get their benefits. And the beauty of that is that, unlike before, the process has been simplified, has been transparent. You know exactly how much you are going to get. You don't need to lobby or talk to anybody. We've never had any incident of fraud, of somebody being shortchanged in terms of what is his entitlement. And that is the main reason for this reform.
To a very large extent, I must tell you that a guaranteed income for pensioners will enhance the social status of everyone at an old age. So the beggars and what have you will reduce to a very large extent in our streets.
Beyond sensitization, the Commission launched into the process of facilitating the establishment of pension fund administrators and pension asset custodians, private sector institutions necessary for the success and internal working of the direct contribution scheme. The institutions are charged with the responsibility of identifying stakeholders, facilitating the collection, recording, and enforcement of contributions, processing, awarding, and payments of benefits, and most important, management of funds. This is no small task, and trust is not a commodity easily sold.
Under the DB scheme, the retiree or the worker knows what he's going to get at the end, but has no contributions. Under the contributory pension scheme, you know what you're contributing, but you would only know exactly what you will get at the end of it when your total sum is in place.
The new pension scheme is contributory, unlike the old scheme, which is pay as you go, which means under the old scheme, when you retire, if there is money, if money has been budgeted, you will be paid. If there is no money, you will not be paid. But this new scheme is contributory. You contribute, and then your employer also contributes, so that at the end of the day, when you retire, your money is in your retirement savings account.
Better pension reward, because you find out that we now have the choice of deciding what to do with our funds, where to invest it. We have to do wise investment, look at what bonds should we buy, which one should we invest on. So we have the responsibility to look at how much money we can make in terms of investment, what interest will we take.
For me, the strength of the defined contribution is that you're taking a pot of money away from the employer and the employee and putting it somewhere else. So even if the employer goes bankrupt, that money is outside of the employer's control. And even for the employee, he cannot raid the pot of money in advance. I say money, but of course I mean assets. At the end of 2013, almost a decade after its inception, about 3.8 trillion naira has already been contributed by workers through their employers, a reflection of how PENCOM's regulations had greatly reduced the issues and misgivings that have haunted the old scheme and trailed PENCOM as well as the new scheme in its inception.
I see this is one of the greatest reforms in the past, not even just decades, in the past, since democracy came in. We have PFAs now. Each of them is employing at least 200 people across the world. And more importantly, it has created a stringent, systematic approach to the payment of pension benefits. Unlike what obtained in the past, there has been no fraud in the 10 years of the existence of since the Contributory Pension Act was passed in 2004. There has been not one single case of fraud. And I must point out that it's not just about the caliber of people who are managing this fund. It's also about the structures put in place to prevent such occurrence.
In 2014, 10 years after the initial pension bill was passed, President Ebele Goodluck Jonathan signed into law a pension reform bill, which is designed to govern and regulate the administration of the Uniform Pension Scheme for both public and private sectors in Nigeria. The 2014 Act empowers PENCOM to institute criminal proceedings against employers who persistently fail to deduct and/or remit pension contributions of their employees within the stipulated time. A 10-year jail term has been prescribed for anyone that embezzles the pension funds. This provision further fortifies the pension assets against mismanagement and/or systemic risks. For millions of Nigerian workers, things are looking up. The dream to retire early and well have been rekindled, and the light at the end of their career trip is literally aglow. And for them, the current pension scheme and PENCOM mean one thing for the future: hope.
I'm very proud of what they have achieved, and I encourage them to do more, to continue doing their work professionally, and continue to make Pensions Commission a public service institution worthy of emulation. I say congratulations.
Right now, for the next decade, our singular objective will be to utilize these funds, as huge as they are, and the potential for more growth into infrastructure and real estate, so that it will benefit not just the nation as a whole, but also the individual contributors.
This is a very delicate job for all of us, that we must do it with conscience, knowing fully well it is a big trust, not just of the public, of the various individuals that have contributed so far into the pension scheme. We must therefore not lose any sight in ensuring that we do not let any investor lose his money.
I wish Pension Commission every happy anniversary and every success in the years to come. Let me challenge them that 10 years from today, they should have a coverage of not 6 million Nigerians, not even 10 million Nigerians, at least to double today's coverage
to 12, between 12 and 15 million Nigerians, which they can do. And of course, the more we succeed in this area, the more we will have a quantum, reasonable quantum of money. And as I will never stop repeating, cool money that could be used for many areas of our development.